a specific and larger kind of ideas, attacks, techniques, and strategies. But artificial intelligence is also very important for public administration, because public administration is always in the state. Public administration is always continuous, and public administration is not always necessarily related with politics. Public administration can be very functional. Public administration can use artificial intelligence to improve its actions. But public administration can be somehow a danger to politicians, because politicians are much more used to speak. Public administration is much more used to make facts, to fulfill public services. The result is very interesting because, there is a problem. Public administration has more trust from the citizen than politicians. In the old worldwide investigation, social investigation, politicians decrease, but and public administration has higher percentages. For example, in almost every country, the most trustful institution is not a political one, but it's an administrative one. Normally, it's the fireworks people, firemen. Yes, because it's something related to facts, and everyone understands what these kind of people are doing, but not politicians. In the same time, we have also a problem because politicians had the right to rule the country, had the right to rule the public administration, and had the right to create new standards for public service, had the right to establish new tariffs, new prices for public services, which is not always very friendly with normal budget, with citizen budget. It means artificial intelligence can be a tool for politicians to control public administration, because in this kind of separation of trust, when public administration is more trustful than politicians, public administration can be considered by politicians as a menace. In fact, a good public servant can be, after a while, if he had a good reputation, can become a candidate in politics and can be a successful candidate who can win. In this case, artificial intelligence in fact, artificial intelligence users must ask to twist questions. Artificial intelligence must be used especially to strengthen the public servant neutrality or not. Artificial intelligence is something to help public administration to resist somehow to political pressures, against political pressures. In this case, let's say that is not very clear today, the answer, because we are now to a great separation of, and to also not a great separation, but also a great change of generations. New generations are much more informatics, much more technological, much more, let's say, internet generations. And internet generations think in a different way. Public administration can be more or less much easier in contact with this kind of people, because they need also public services. They need to enter to the to the site of the Minister of Education or of Minister of Finance or something, and they need to find their specific and correct informations. And this kind of informations is something which bring a positive mark for public administration. But politicians in the internet moment, in the internet society, in the internet century, can decrease very easily. Just one mistake of politicians can delete all his careers before. In this question, it cannot be a correct relation between administration and politics if politicians don't understand to professionalize themselves in public servant mentality. I think they are not, many politicians are much more related to their own pockets, but not with that natural and moral meaning of public service, to serve people, to serve nations, to create a better world. In this case, I can say just thank you for your attention in 5 languages: English, Spanish, Arabic, French, and Romanian. And this is the colors of my flag. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Marius Vicalero, for your excellent presentation, as usually.
Thank you.
Excellent because of the topic and because of the content. Why I said because of the topic, considering also this new phase of democracy. I mean, this transition from traditional democracy to not only digital democracy, but also of democracy in the era of artificial intelligence. I mean, this transition considering from traditional democracy and also this only digital democracy, but phase of democracy in the era of politics. I mean, this transition especially from traditional democracy and also this only digital democracy, but phase of democracy in the era of politics. And I mean, this transition especially from traditional democracy and also artificial intelligence bring not only especially also traditional democracy and also artificial intelligence bring not only politicians and especially also traditional democracy also now we have another artificial intelligence bring not only politicians and artificial intelligence bring not only politicians and artificial intelligence bring not only politicians and artificial intelligence bring not only politicians to drive long-lasting business impact. Professor Pena-Fernández, artificial intelligence bring not only politicians to drive long-lasting.
Thank you for inviting me to be part of this exciting global initiative. It is a great pleasure and honor to share my experience. And now I'm going to share my screen. It is a great pleasure and honor to share my experience. And now I'm going to share my screen. It is a great pleasure and honor to share my experience. And now I'm going to share my screen. I'll be talking about 3 topics. Number 1, AI-driven transformation and how to implement a logistic AI strategy. I'll be talking about 3 topics. Topic number 2 is the IEEE 700 standard for algorithm bias consideration. We have been working in this standard for over 3 years. And also about the IEEE 2863 is the standard for organization governance of AI. We have been working in this standard for 1 year, and at the moment I am responsible for the development of the fairness section of the standard. We have been working in this standard for 1 year. Presentation goal. My goal is to provide to leaders of organization, including government, a framework to be able to understand competing and operating in the age of AI. I'm going to tell you my experience. I started with the age of internet, working for a global technology company. Around in 1997, I implemented and introduced. You need to consider the technology and the skill. You need to consider the technology you're going to place to advance the AI journey. You need to consider the technology you're going to place. This is going to be able to help you. Need to consider the technology you're going to place and learning. You need to consider the technology you're going to place. You need to consider the technology you're going to place. And if you can see on the internet era, the way that we introduce, you can see on the internet or the e-business, the way that we introduce on the internet service, the way that you can see on the internet now, on the AI, the way that you can see on the internet now, AI service, the way that you can see on the internet now, AI service, the way that you can see on the internet, transition to the cloud computing, the way that you can see on the internet, especially for international collaboration, you can see on the internet, it's going to be the cloud computing roadmap. You have to evaluate your business, where you're going to have your technology. It's going to be hybrid, it's going to be on-premise, or it's going to be based deployment. Basically, the cloud computing, you're going to be renting the infrastructure. This is the global computing deployment infrastructure. Different governments, they have different regulations, and you have to consider this area. And number one is the compliance requirements. It's going to be the legal and data government. For example, if you are in Europe and you are dealing in the finance market, you have to consider if the government allows you to have data in Brazil, for example. Proximity is going to be critical because you want your customer to have access to all the information that you have. And you have to consider the featureability. And the last is the pricing. There are 6 core areas that you have to consider in the cloud adoption framework. You have the business capability and you have the technical capability. Under the business capability, and operation that you're going to need to actually implement the operation that you're going to need. You have to actually implement the goal for each of the particular you're going to need. You have to actually implement the goal. Okay, now I have that, how I can move to AI. Okay, now it is important that you consider how I can move to AI. Okay, now it is important that you consider how I can move to AI. With the internet. Okay, now it is important that you consider how I can move to AI. With the internet. Okay, now it is important that you consider how I can move to AI. Okay, now it is important that you consider how I can move to AI. Okay, now it is important that you consider how I can move to AI. Okay, now it is the holistic strategy to AI. You have to remember that I mentioned before you already have the cloud computing. You have to remember that I mentioned before you already have the first element. You have to remember that I mentioned holistic strategy to AI. The first element. You have to remember that I mentioned holistic strategy to AI. The first element. You have to remember that I mentioned holistic strategy to AI. The first element. You have to remember that